Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. It's movie catch-up time here at the old Cinema Sit Down. A bunch of stuff I watched at the beginning of November and didn't get a chance to talk about. We've been talking about, and the last review we just did was for Possessor. If you haven't seen that review, you can check it out right there. It is an absolute feast for those of you who are fans of visual horror storytelling. Some really great stuff from Brandon Cronenberg with that one. Now we shift away from the blood and the gore and the legitimately scary and shift gears into the dark comedy scary. Mr. Jim Cummings, writing, directing, and lead acting in this one, delivers us a horror movie that certainly has some scares in it, but whose tone and material in the writing is rather funny and interesting to watch. Cummings' character is something, that's for sure. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into The Wolf of Snow Hollow. And as I said, this comes to us from Jim Cummings, writing, directing, and lead acting here. And Jim Cummings has got a very particular delivery to this character of John Marshall. And it's one of those things where if you can get in on what he's doing here, I think you can really enjoy this movie. There's a lot of fun to be had. But if that delivery isn't something that meshes with you, it's probably not going to be a movie that works. The nice thing is it's in and out. It's just under 90 minutes, so you're not like, if you're not digging it, it's not like you're struggling through a 2.5 hour slog. This is a quick-paced, very witty, very sharp movie. And Cummings' delivery is sporadic, I think is the best way to describe it. He is all over the place, and he gets very tense and very high-strung very quickly. And you get these moments where it's like he shows up on a scene and oh, this is going on, and he knows there's pressure just to the job in general. Specifically what's going on with him. His father, Sheriff Hadley, is played by Robert Forster. Rest in peace, is one of the last movies that Forster did, and turns in a really solid performance. But he's, not great health-wise. That responsibility is eventually gonna fall on John, and he takes it quite seriously. And when these murders start happening, he is just dead set on trying to find out who's doing all these killings. And as he hears people, in the rumor mill try to theorize, this might be a werewolf or just a massive wolf of some kind, he doesn't believe that. He believes it's a man. So anytime someone brings it up, he's like, this isn't a wolf! And he'll be talking to you, and then he'll just be yelling at you in your face. And that back and forth and just kind of all over sporadic nature that Cummings delivers with this character is, like I said, it's a little jarring at first, and you're like, oh man, is this what this is going to be? But once you kind of settle into the movie, it ended up being something that I loved. I loved that Marshall is just all over the place. And the things that his character is doing, and just the way he's reacting to the pressure of not catching this killer fast enough, and how it impacts his life and his family's life and his job. It turns out to be a really, really entertaining and fascinating performance. Marshall is dealing with a lot of stuff internally, and that leads to these external kind of explosions on people. And a lot of it is really, really sharply written, and quite funny. You laugh out loud at some of the things that Cummings is doing. And even more so, when you get visual evidence of what's actually going on, and you're like, well, there it is. Hard to deny that. And Cummings still is acting like it's something different, and you're like, this guy is just crazy. And being around him and watching him fail miserably, it kind of falls into one of these bad cop movies. And not bad cop he's a bad person, although he's not a perfect person. He's an alcoholic trying to get sober, and that certainly plays into the character. But he's someone that you can relate to, and as you watch these things kind of happen to him and the way in which he responds to it, you're just you just kind of sit there and you're like, you start pulling for him, to be honest. I'm like, come on, man, you can figure this out. And I just thought that character worked once you got into a rhythm and kind of was like, okay, this is what this character does. And as we learn more about Marshall, we kind of learn why he's that way. And like I said, this is a movie that falls solely on Jim Cummings' shoulders for the most part. If this movie's going to work, it's because of his performance and because of what he's doing writing and directing wise. And while the writing is super sharp at times, and just kind of plays into this kind of crazy nature of John Marshall's like bipolar swings, the filmmaking is really solid. I like the way that Cummings, gives you tidbits of what's going on. You see moments, you see flashes, but you don't see everything, and that allows him to build like a real mystery all the way up to the end, where you're riding, going, "All right, I know what's going on. Like, we're gonna get there," and then you see what's going on. You're like, "Huh." Wouldn't have necessarily thought that's where we would end up, but it really, really works by the time you get to the end of the film. And Cummings does have a rock solid cast around him. Ricky Lindholm, who plays Detective Julia Robson, is kind of Cummings' right hand woman, so to speak. She is the other lead detective on the case, working with Cummings, and she is doing all the really good cop work here. While Cummings is kind of losing it and spiraling out, Robson is dedicated to figuring out what's going on, and she understands that Cummings is dealing with a lot, whether it's with his father and his father's health. So this is one of those really, really small towns. There's got to be maybe like 75 people in this town, something like that. So maybe more than that, but it's a very, very small town, and everybody knows everybody. So she understands the things that he's going through personally with his father, and then with his ex-wife and daughter, and all these external things are affecting Cummings, and Robson is just picking up the slack, and she's awesome, man. She is a firecracker, and I just love that when you have this zaniness that you've got to deal with Cummings all the time, anytime you can kind of move away from that, you go to somebody who's really quite sane and like totally put together and really working the case the way that a detective should be working the case, and not doing what Marshall is doing, which is just kind of taking big old swings and missing a whole lot, but every once in a while hitting. And I love their relationship in the movie. Their back and forth and chemistry on screen is really, really good. And they are, like I said, kind of polar opposites in what you get, physically and emotionally. But they reflect each other really quite well. And I like watching that duo on screen. Then, obviously, like I said, you have Robert Forster here. And, it's one of the last performances he puts in, before he passed in 2019. And it turns out a really solid performance, man. Like, when you have someone who's kind of like all over the place the way Marshall is, and like he was an alcoholic, and some of the stuff that we learned about his past, the way Forster reacts to that stuff is like a dad who's like, get your shit together, son. Like, this is ridiculous. I need you to hone in and figure these things out. And meanwhile, Cummings is trying to keep him as far away from the case as possible because he doesn't want the stress to affect his declining health. And he wants to show that he can do it. And I just love the way that Forster reacts to all those things and how he plays them. And how he still wants to be a really good cop. And it doesn't matter if he is in, aging and declining health. Like, he wants to be a part of all of it, and kind of watching that relationship is another one of those things that just, you get really nice moments here and there where, Forster just adds something to that with what he's able to do performance-wise. And, if I was the family, like, that's a solid performance to have toward, the back end before he passed. And just a really nice way to remember, Forster as an actor, because he does a great job here. And we have a couple other characters that pop up. You have other deputies on the department, and they add some nice comic relief. But the other character that kind of really stood out to me was Chloe East, who plays Jenna Marshall, John's daughter. And the relationship that they have is an important one to John's character. And anytime she kind of pops in, you're dealing with a teenager who's dealing with set of parents that are divorced, and just all the things that a teenage girl is dealing with at that time. And it's one of those things where it's like Marshall can't really be dealing with this on top of things. And again, it's one of those relationships where you see how hard he's trying, and it's just not working because of his general nature. And I like the way that East kind of responds to all that and how she plays into the back part of the movie. And all around, you get entertaining performances from everybody. And whether the movie lands or not, like I said, kind of solely rests on Jim Cummings' shoulders. And if you can get behind the performance that he's giving you, like I said, it's witty, it's sharp, and it's quick. It's in and out, and the scares are pretty good. You know, there's not a ton of them, but every once in a while, when you're diving into the horror stuff, you get really, really solid moments, and it builds to an end that, for me, was a really satisfying conclusion to the movie. So there you go, man. Those are all my thoughts on The Wolf of Snow Hollow. It is a quick but easy and fun little horror movie that has a really nice dark comedic nature to everything that it does. And like I said, where the movie goes and where it ends up, I found to be really interesting. And where I was a little apprehensive at the beginning of the movie, I was like, I don't know if I can deal with what Jim Cummings is doing here. By the time you get into the middle, and then by the time you get into the third act, you're getting some of the best stuff from Cummings, both from the directing, the writing, and the acting. And at the end of the day, for me, yeah, well, you know, Wolf of Snow Hollow did exactly what I was looking for. And now I'm done talking, so it's your turn, man. What did you think? Have you checked out The Wolf of Snow Hollow? What did you think? Like I said, Jim Cummings' zany performance is out there, and that style to the delivery and the material is very unique, that's for sure. So did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Did it do what it did for me, where I was like, I don't know, okay, no, I'm good with this. Like, I like what we're doing. How did that stuff play? Because obviously, if it didn't work, I would imagine this would be a hard movie to get through. But if it did, what things did you like or find that were worthwhile inside the movie that made you go, I'm glad I stuck it out and got through kind of the off-balance-ness that Cummings is throwing at you early, and then was able to enjoy the movie. Things that were working, not working. If you haven't seen the movie, have we enticed you to want to check it out? Do you dig dark comedy horror movies? Anything you're thinking about The Wolf of Snow Hollow, down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions, you want to be here for it, but you haven't yet, come, join the C-Maniac Nation, man. Jump over there, hit that subscribe button, help me get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and then hit that little bell that follows if you want the alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I am signing off. Peace. Well, that's all live and breathe. You still here? Check out a video like this one or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.